Nataliya Becker is an executive coach, team facilitator, and founder of Becker Leadership. She helps leaders and leadership teams do the inner and outer work of leadership during times of disruption, change, and growth. She has grown her business threefold over the past 3 years, working with clients ranging from mid-sized businesses to large multinational corporations. Her background is in data science, technology, and business, and she is also a certified yoga teacher and mindfulness practitioner. Nataliya is pioneering a new era of leadership development, integrating business, technology, and human transformation to help organizations win, not lose, in the era of co-creation with AI. Nataliya, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Michael. It's my pleasure to be here. This is very special.
It is for me too. I've known you for years and I've always admired your work, and this opportunity to sit down and talk with you about your practice is really exciting to me. So, for those who don't know you, could you start by sharing a bit of your background and how it led to the founding of Becker Leadership?
I want to say that a lot of people look at my background and hear it and feel really disappointed. Okay. And usually it's the people who have some kind of analytical background. Because I come from an analytical background. I started my career as a data scientist. And
Mm.
so when they see me as a former data scientist, and then they see my life now, to a lot of them, it's like, what went wrong? What happened? Why would you go the whole way from here to here where data science and the world of AI is so sexy right now? But it really did start with data science, and it wasn't like a shift to 180. It was a little bit of a gradient switch over,
Mm.
where even as a data scientist, I was always so obsessed about, are we actually solving the right problems when we're building models? And what about everyone else? Like the ones who are using the model and what they're using it for? Do they understand why and what's the context around it? So I was always differentiated that way. But I wasn't like really obsessed about the technical parts of it, where most nerds enjoy. Um,
Mm.
and at that time, I was really, trying to hide that. Now I don't at least can speak about it openly. And so when the time came to really honestly learning a new programming language to continue to do data science, Python, that's what my brain went like, I can't do this. Like, no, this is not your thing. And over
Mm.
time, I switched more towards business. And so, from data science to business strategy, business operations, underwriting, analytics, to then working with technology and in the field of technology. And in the field of technology, that was already closer to really who I am because it was really combining understanding customer really well, understanding business really well, and technology. But the big piece of all to actually make it work was really understanding the humans that actually make it work. And so when
Mm.
I dove more into understanding the humans, I realized that this is really my jam, is really leading myself and figuring out how do you actually put people together in a room so that they do launch something innovative and that's needed in the market. And I was fascinated just by honestly how not easy it is and how easy it is to fall into different default thinking and idea that the teams just are meant to work together because you throw them in the room, and how many teams don't actually realize their upside of creativity and novel ideas and productivity and achieving great extraordinary results. And so my curiosity really led me there through the corporate career. And in parallel, I had a personal health journey where I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer when I was 25. So I was
Mm.
very conscious of, managing my stress. And that led to more working with, such modalities as mindfulness and yoga, which led to self-awareness, then to hiring a coach at some point to really figure out how do I manage stress, to then becoming a people manager early in my career, not being a good people manager,
Mm.
okay? And then, but
Mhm.
being aware enough at that point to get help, such as a coach, and all of that journey then converging to I really think I should be doing this full time because um, I'm developing quickly. People see results from my work. And then I jumped ship to entrepreneurship about 7 years ago now, forced by another personal event in the family where I realized I needed more flexibility than being in a leadership role myself can give.
That's a fascinating story, right? Lots of twists in there.
Oh yeah, and this was me trying to be short.
Yeah, right. And that's the abbreviated version.
Yeah.
Now that you are almost 7 years into the business, what would you credit your success to?
Really good question. What you really need to be good at as business development and also figuring out the type of services that the world actually needs. And I think that was really thanks to my product development background that right away I remember the idea of product market fit. And now it was me being the product. I understood that no, I need to be as close to the customers as possible, always understanding them and co-creating with them, which I do till this day. None of my proposals ever created in isolation. Everything. And so very early on, a lot of coaches I'm seeing, and where I felt a little bit inadequate at the time, would have like a fancy website and beautiful Instagram and LinkedIn. And I always was so envious because I couldn't get there. Aesthetics of it is not my strong suit. But what I did do in a messy way, I would create a bunch of Google Docs. I'll, prescribing what I thought the services would be, what kind of coaching I want to do, a leadership development, a program, a team workshop. And I would already be selling it without even truly having it fully done.
Mhm.
I would just perceive. So I would talk to the customers. I would just get with them on a call, just saying, hey, I switched careers. We worked this many years ago together because I'm serving this clients, which I knew would be leaders. Can I just hear what's going on in their world? I wasn't there selling. For me, it was like, can I understand? And so I would talk to, let's say, 8, 10 people, and I would already perceive some themes because the data science brain is still a data science brain. Okay. I'm just building models
Right.
now in my head differently. Okay. And so I
Mhm.
would see themes and I was like, okay, I think I know what they need. Like, right now at the time, the resilience piece was very relevant. I'm noticing that the team dynamics is always an issue. So I, put a quick Google Doc on this is what I think they need. So the next interview I would do, I would already talk about what's going on in their world. And then I would say, huh, you know what? I think you would have really benefited from this. What do you think? And now it showed them that Google Doc, right? Which costs me zero if you think about it to put together.
Mhm.
And right away I
Right.
get feedback where they'd be reading, oh my God, they're like reading, this is like you got into my head. And that's what I know there is product market fit. Or they would say, no, that's not it, Natalia. And then I'd be like, okay, well, great. I didn't build this. I didn't build this workshop. I didn't, put my name against the services. So that was, and until this day, it's always an iterative process. It's always co-created with the customer, which I think keeps me relevant and ensures that product market fit. So that's one thing. The second one, what I was saying, you really have to fall in love if you want to build your own practice with business development. For me,
Mhm.
that meant falling in love with selling. And I know for some people, the word love and selling doesn't go in one sentence. And I made it work. I found a reframe for me where it really does. And I truly, truly at this point love selling. After spending more than 30K in trainings and coaching on selling, I have to say it wasn't an easy journey. But I really was able to understand that, wait, I am I am selling solution to people problems. I'm making people's life truly better. So to kind
Mhm.
of summarize, the product market fit, falling in love with business development and selling, and the third one, diversifying services and looking for mastery in them.
Really good. This is probably eye-opening for people who are watching this already. I know that one of the strong areas of your business has been running corporate offsites. You've been remarkably
Mm.
successful in doing that. What is your thought on the value of offsites to leadership teams?
You've been to one that was a complete waste of time. Everyone listening's been to one, and so have I. I think it's more about what can the value you get if you really take advantage of the unique settings offsite offer. Okay. Because think about what is an offsite. It's a gathering of your team hopefully outside of the regular space. So it's different environment, right? Which
Yeah.
we know stimulates different type of thinking. Okay. It's extended time. Again, how can you leverage the extended time? So that means you likely have more time to exhale, to work not in the business, but on the business. You likely have more time to think deeper through things, right? You likely have more time to have the conversation that matter with the right depth without rushing in 30-minute meetings. And you likely have more time to connect on a human basis. And you have each other, right? And we know when we have people together, likely more novel ideas can be born. That's how innovation can happen. You likely can get more alignment. So if you put those ingredients together, and again, I want to say you intentionally design it, not just a bunch of, bowling for the team and a bunch of workshops by everyone. No, if you intentionally design, starting with the end goal of mind of what you're trying to achieve and how it fits into your context and other things, then you can get a more cohesive team. You can get better strategy, more clear. You can get alignment and buy-in on key decisions. You can walk away knowing that you have a system that allows you to work more effectively. You can feel
Mhm.
recommitted to the organizations and re-energized, but not in isolation of just throwing people together for a couple of days. The design is extremely, extremely important of it.
Yeah, I'm getting that. And that's why you've become masterful at it because you've done enough to where you've learned so much that you just keep getting better and better and better versus the average person who might only do a few a year and
Mhm.
they're just not ramping up their knowledge curve, so to speak,
Yeah.
at the same degree that you are.
Yes, and also I am currently really investing in my facilitation skills as I believe it's the skill of the future. So I've, taken a week off this year, which was a hard swallow, but a full week
Mhm.
to spend on just facilitation, mastery of facilitation methods and philosophy and psychology of facilitation. And I'm
Mhm.
also now looking for other facilitators that are senior to me who I can join. I have something coming up in 2 weeks where I'm looking for ways to actually spend time in the room with other facilitators. And also, I would say if someone is watching and saying, oh my God, well, that's great for Nataliya, but how do I start on facilitation? Or I'm not a facilitator. Just by being intentional of how you help your clients plan, right? By actually being a great coach and really just thinking through this, what is the point A to point B? You can help your clients already be more intentional. Maybe they won't become or you won't become facilitator like this quick, but you'll already give them value by improving the time they want to spend together with their teams. And one thing I did also, I developed an offsite planning tool,
Mhm.
and it's published publicly, where it literally guides you through planning of an offsite, so anyone can use it.
How often do you think a team should have an offsite?
Generally, we want rhythms for connection because everything is pulling us apart in the natural schedule, right? Like as soon as we walk out of the outside, we get to our functional silos very easily. We're firefighting. So you want to put kind of like what I call like, imagine like an electricity pole, and you always put a pole so the gravity doesn't get too low. Same with
Yeah.
team offsite. You want to have some kind of team poles. It doesn't always have to be an offsite. I would say every quarter you likely want to have some team gatherings or some team recalibration and check in every
Mhm.
quarter. It could be, your strategy check-in meeting for a day, right? It could be on site as well. People use their offices all the time. It can be virtual if you need to, but some kind of check-in has to happen every quarter. And sometimes with teams that are really working on their ways of working or they're under a lot of pressure, we would meet even every month for 90 minutes. That's already good because you're providing that regularity. But also will depend on, honestly, on the context of how much support they need, you think, in their team as a team rather than individual. And also, are they a remote team? Are they in person?
What's the typical planning cycle and maybe state it another way, like how much time would you spend actually working with the client to develop that offsite?
Yeah. So I would answer that question slightly different just because if I'm really meeting with the team on a regular basis,
Hmm.
then my planning cycle would be a lot lower because I would be in context with them. Okay.
Hmm.
But generally, I want to first talk about, if let's say it's every 6 months or the first time, the minimum is 6 weeks. And the reason is before I design an offsite, I always interview everyone. That's like a little bit of my secret sauce here. Always.
Hmm.
Even if it's a crunch for time. I will try to get 30 minutes. I will block a day. I will be available for hours. They can just reach me by phone if needed. But I always try to get everyone perspective on just what do you think we need to achieve? What do you think is going on for the team? How can we be successful with those days? And I always get a different perspectives, which then allows me to really think what would be valuable in terms of topics and pre-work and we should achieve. And it gives a lot of really good and rich data points to the client, usually their leader, right? The other thing it does for me is that now everyone becomes more bought in into the value of the offsite
Right.
because they know now that I've designed it around their goals, right? And not just what their boss said. So that's why I'd say 6 weeks is minimum. Most people would engage me 2 to 3 months earlier in under normal circumstances. I'm laughing because I was like, well, actually, no, I'm planning something that was I was engaged in 3 weeks ago right now.
Oh boy.
But we're working with what we have. And still, I'll tell you, 3 weeks ago I got engaged for it. Already dates were fixed. It was, related to the travel times. And I almost skipped those interviews because I was like, there's no way we have
Hmm.
that. And good thing I didn't. Because you will always be a better facilitator if you understand the context from everyone, even if your
I,
slides don't look as polished.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And the other thing that I would add to that is then they become a little familiar with you, which
Mm.
makes you more comfortable and them more comfortable on the day of the offsite. Because if this is your first time getting to know this team, you don't want to walk in that day and not even know people's names yet. I mean, it's
100%.
kind of an awkward way to start.
Yeah. And it takes, again, people think like a day is a lot of time. It's not. Day is not a lot of time. So you're right. If you're taking the first, 90 minutes or so they're warming up to you and they're still a little closed, you lost
Mhm.
that time. And that psychological safety is the most important ingredient to really having the conversations that matter. So 100% agree there.
Yeah, yeah, good. Thank you. The last question I want to ask about offsites is that what if clients know they want an offsite. They feel like our team's not gelling, or we've been through a really strenuous period, and we need a break. Maybe we need an offsite to just relax and recharge and work on the team, as you said earlier. But they don't really know like what the content should be. They just know they need an offsite. Like, how do you help a client like that?
Easily, honestly, from exactly that. Like I would ask them the questions around what's going on for the company right now, right?
Hmm.
I would ask them, what's the context of the team? When you're saying you're not gelling, what does that look like? Then I would ask, okay, well, if we met in a year from now and the offsite was a success, what would look different? And as soon as I start to get, no, what are some obstacles you're encountering right now, you think, to achieving your goals? Usually that would already give me some ideas of what we should be working on with the team. Usually it's something with like their behaviors, or then I'm able to kind of diagnose more from honestly my team coaching background, right?
Hmm.
And team effectiveness background. Or, and then I'd be able to put together content and think what's the framework that could work here, whether, I have a tool set like the everything disc, the 5 behaviors, team charter, just leadership development modules, because sometimes it's really they just need to develop some skills together. And just by learning together, some of the cohesion develops. Or sometimes they actually need to solve some business challenge together. So I would facilitate the deeper thinking and the debates they need to have in order to solve a business challenge and feel aligned and feel ready to and committed to tackle it. So it would be born through this discovery with the client.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And then they're probably revealing things just by talking about the team, but
Right.
they don't necessarily know how that translates into programs within little mini sections within the offsite. But you,
And they don't need to know, Michael. This is where it's
yeah.
like that's where the facilitator really and I want to call it facilitation and experience design because I'm learning recently that it's actually two different fields, right? I was
Mm.
just kind of doing it, thinking, it's just agenda for facilitation, but that's what an experienced facilitator, an experienced designer would help them achieve. Go from this, I don't know, they just don't gel to, okay, here's some what we need to do. Here's the content exercises, some pre-work. This is the tools that we can tackle in the offsite.
So let's shift gears now and start talking about coaching a little bit because I know you have some real thoughts about the future of coaching. Uh, where do you see the world of coaching developing with AI in play?
Such a good question. I love all things AI right now. My nerdy brain and
Yeah,
the coaching and the facilitation, the business brain now finally, finding their marriage
their
together,
intersection.
their
Yeah.
intersection. Yeah. So generally, when I think about, both like executive coaching, facilitation, and leadership development, those are kind of like my three services.
Mhm.
I think about what AI is going to do in terms of the demand and supply for this, and how do you actually deliver the service? What does AI do to that? So for coaching specifically, the demand I think is going to go up, right? Because leaders just live in a way more overwhelmed world. Things that we know how we used to do might not work, actually not might, likely would not work in how the world is going to function now and functions now. There's more complexities, it's faster. We constantly have to lead people through all of that mess as well and determine how to go and where to go. So I think the demand is going to go up. However, with coaching, my concern is that I think part of it can also be replaced by AI. And I know not
Right.
everyone would agree with this. And I often hear the argument that says, well, someone told me just recently I was at a networking event and he was a, general manager of a really big company in Canada. He said, well, Natalia, empathy can never be replaced. You know what, Michael, I wanted to say, let me ask your wife. Does she think ChatGPT is more empathetic or you? Okay. And I know this is a controversial statement. Yet, we have research now, actually out of University of Waterloo, that's sorry, University of Toronto here, that says that if we compare responses in crisis for crisis workers between AI and crisis trained workers, people score higher on empathy. It's a
Mm.
little scary in a way,
Hmm.
but also, I'd better know than not. And so I'm not convinced that some of the human skills are not replaceable. I think being able to think through things, being able to apply some well-groomed coaching framework to get some clarity, I think AI can do. I've tested a number of AI coaches and it was really impressive. I was really impressed. So to me, I think 70% of coaching will be replaced by platforms, for more maybe lower level coaching in a way that's a little easier. The AI can be in all places, but at the same time, you can really upload a lot of context in AI. Like your business strategy can go there, all of your psychometric tools, right?
Hmm.
AI can actually likely maybe hold more information than humans can, right? So I think there's many reasons to believe AI coaching can really improve and can achieve some results. That's where I want to say that the A minus coaching is going to be replaced. I can say this across the board. AI replaces A minus in many things, in writing and so on. Like everyone is now can be at the A minus level. So you have to be A plus coach And I think the relationship you build with the client should be beyond just coaching.
A question that comes to mind for me in thinking about how you're seeing coaching and how it's being affected by AI, how are you adjusting your business based on your own thoughts?
So what I said about coaching, if I was to apply the same thing into facilitation, that becomes slightly different. So for demand of facilitation, it's growing, I think, even faster than coaching for a couple of reasons. So one, I see AI is actually destroying team dynamics even more. Team dynamic is already not easy, right? You have interpersonal conflicts and so on. But what AI does, it reinforces our own thinking, our own biases even more. It tells you how smart we are. And why do I need to talk to that other coworker? Because obviously they don't know all of the information. And you're more likely to get convinced of your own ideas, and you're more likely to become a lone wolf and just go and do it. Especially think about, I'm thinking of like some profiles of leaders who are very action driven, right?
Mhm.
And independent by nature. This is going to be working against effective team dynamics likely. So people are avoiding the team interactions more because again, they can achieve so much more and effective and efficiently with AI. So the team dynamics is getting more and more fractured. That's one. Second, things are getting really complex. As they're getting complex, one leader cannot just give direction and know what to do for the company or for the team. They need the other brains in the room. And they need to be able to extract what's in those brains effectively, help them think deeper, help them think more creatively, right? Make sure that they actually reach some kind of solution and are ready to go and execute it in an aligned way. Well, that's facilitation. That's what great facilitators do. Okay. And the third one is really people are craving connection. This is
Mhm.
our core need. And that's this core need where humans, we're not going to evolve as fast as the technology evolving. That's a core need. The more you can tap into helping people refill the bucket on that, the more successful you're going to be because people are going to be more engaged and more committed to the workplace that way. And so to me, if I look at those factors, all of those factors tell me that the demand is going to increase for facilitation. Then I look, okay, well, is it going to be then also replaced? Well, you can't really hold space as an AI with multiple people. That's where I think facilitation, in my opinion, is more bulletproof this way, right? Again, it's becoming more difficult. You need more tools. People are like leaders are demanding more and the team's demanding more. But I think it's worth investing it because the demand is going to go up. And it's I find it very uniquely positioned. So that's my take on facilitation, which explains. So in my business, I'm putting a lot of efforts into facilitation, both in terms of mastery, the tools, how I do it. And I'd like to develop more people because I am feeling the more demand already coming to my business on this. And then for leadership development, again, I think the demand is going to increase for all the same reasons. We need to bulletproof our leaders. Organizations can only adapt as fast as the humans can. That's the speed, not at speed of technology, at speed of humans. So we need to
Mhm.
develop the capacity of our humans. What I call the inner work and outer work of leadership is changing. So the outer work, this is how do you create business when you don't know all your constraints and previous assumptions are blown up now, right? How do you develop, like your strategy has to, the way you develop strategy has to change. The way you manage people has to change. The way you execute has to change. But then also the inner work of leadership, which is you need to have the emotional and mental, physical capacity to do all of that. Like growth mindset is 2000s. If you're still talking about growth mindset, you're too late. We need a lot more advanced metacognition skills for the leaders. And
So what would you call the new mindset?
the new mindset I would call almost like, extreme adaptability. Someone I met
Mhm.
recently, I'm just reading his book because I was blown away by his keynote, and I've actually just interviewed him myself. JQ Change Fluency. Just an idea, you can't actually constantly manage constantly change, right? But you can really manage your mindset of how you adapt. So change fluency, how do you constantly able to reframe and start acting and put experiments in place and be able to bring others along on a constant basis? That just becomes the new normal.
So,
So yeah, so let me then package it to like what I'm doing for my business. So in my
okay.
business, so I'm introducing, I while I sell coaching, I try right now to go through more of advanced offerings where I combine coaching and facilitation. So rather than going from one and done offsites and one of coaching, I try to offer to the teams programs. So we do 2 offsites within the 6 to 9 months, team check-ins in between, and executive coaching for their leader and some AI coach or some of the human coaches in between for other people, right? So I'm trying to combine the pieces and go through more programmatic. I'm investing highly in facilitation skills, as I said, and I hope to also develop a curriculum because I am starting to have other facilitators who are joining, and I'm being mentored and I'm mentoring others kind of along the way.
Wow.
And then developing I really want to think through the leadership development, the actual skill sets there, but also how it's done. I think now we can all have our own AI tutors. I think you can be graduating with your own AI coach based on your journey. So that's in the research for me. So I'll pause there. I think I answered more than you asked.
It's probably energizing and eye-opening and also intimidating for a newer coach who might be watching this interview. And my channel does generally attract people who are new or aspiring executive coaches. And I like to ask veteran coaches like you what advice you might give to a new coach who's just setting up their external coaching practice, hoping to be successful like you over the next several years as they develop. Any thoughts that are perhaps either reinforcing what you said earlier or something new that you would want to add?
I think check in with yourself. Like, do you understand what this would require to build a business? Like, do you get it? And then do you want it? Like this is the framework I give for talent assessment, but I think it's works backwards towards yourself as well. Do you
Mm.
get what it takes? Because as I said, unless you want to you don't want to be A+ coach, it's might be not worth the journey. Like if you're really committed, you'll succeed because this field is evolving and we need more and more courageous leaders given. But are you willing to do what it takes? So do you get it? Do you want it? And what capacity do you have to do it? Right? Whether it's capabilities development, where it's your own emotional and mental capacity to do it, would be my ask. But honestly, if you are willing to do it, there's no better time than now. It's great. The future, I think, for our field is actually very, very bright. I feel privileged and honored that I've made the switch from the corporate career to this. I feel like right now I'm like a little bit of a medicine holder. We have the medicine for when the world needs it the most.
Well, Nataliya, thank you very much for sharing so much with the audience and being so open about what you're doing with your business, but also sharing some of your ideas. I know that you feel that the information is out there, but not in the way that you've packaged it and presented it from your real world experience. So, absolutely valuable, and I just want to thank you on behalf of all the audience viewers.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for this time. And as I mentioned, anyone can reach out to me. I would love to be of service.
Terrific. And we will put that in the description of the program, how to reach Nataliya. All right, with that, we'll close our conversation. Thanks again.
Thank you.